One of my main focuses over the years was to stop pleasing people. I enjoyed doing things for people, don't get me wrong. However, what I mean is doing things and agreeing to things because somewhere deep down you feel that you have to impress people, always say yes, and be liked in order to survive. And if I'm honest, I still struggle with it. A part of the people pleasing strategy is ingrained in me from childhood. But one of the most detrimental parts of people pleasing is that in a way it suppresses your personality. We can forget who we are and how we would act authentically as we try to keep up a performance. And ironically, I hate fakeness. I'm starting to think maybe Jim Carrey was right. Maybe even depression comes because we continue to wear a mask. In this video, I go more into people pleasing and just how far some of us have taken it. I also look into the reason behind it and how to help get in tune with ourselves a little more. If you're new here, I'm Amy Claire, and on this channel I try to understand human nature, philosophy and life stories to help you make sense of life and how we all get to where we are. We're all performing, not just on social media, but in every interaction, every conversation, every carefully curated moment of our lives. And somewhere along the way, we've lost track of where the performance ends and where we begin. It starts small. A laugh that's a little bit too loud at a joke you didn't find that funny, agreeing with an opinion that doesn't seem quite right, presenting a version of yourself that's more palatable, more acceptable, more likely to be liked. We're all complicit in the subtle self-erasure. Psychologically, this isn't just a weakness, it's a survival mechanism. Social psychologists call it impression management, our brain's sophisticated algorithm for navigating social landscapes. Evolution didn't design us to be brutally authentic, it designed us to belong, to be accepted, and to avoid rejection. The tribe that got along survived, and the one that stood out got kicked out. But belonging does come at a cost. Each time we silence our true opinion, each moment we comfort ourselves to fit someone else's expectation, we're not just losing authenticity, we're losing ourselves, piece by piece. Look, I know it does sound cliche, but it is true. It's essentially death by 1,000 small compromises. Sometimes I feel so focused on doing particular tasks that it's only after I wonder, who am I actually doing this for? And in all honesty, sometimes I do question who I actually am. I felt shame, embarrassment, and certainly cringed along the way, but I feel more self-forgiveness recently as I realise how common it is. Philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre would call this a form of bad faith, where we deny our fundamental freedom to ourselves. We construct these elaborate personas, these social masks, believing that they'll protect us. They're actually just prisons we built for ourselves. The irony is that this very strategy we use to be liked often ensures the opposite. People can sense inauthenticity, the slight tension, that microscopic disconnect between what someone is saying and what they actually feel. It's perceptible. We're not as good at performing as we think we are. This isn't about becoming brutally blunt or rejecting social niceties. It's about understanding the difference between genuine connection and performance, between adapting and erasing, between being flexible and being fake. The most challenging part? Recognizing when we're doing it. Those moments when I feel that internal cringe, that slight disconnect between my words and my actual thoughts, that's the early warning system. That's where the real work begins. Take this performance to its logical extreme and you arrive at audience capture. A psychological phenomenon where individuals become so consumed by their audience's expectations that they fundamentally lose their authentic self. I see this every time I go on social media. The profile that just doesn't match the person. I used to do some streaming where I would actually cover bits of comedy and mental health topics. Over the months I became known for my cheerful entertainment. And whilst a part of me is that cheerful, smiley gal, I would never forget that when I wanted to talk about something more serious, I would get comments like, "Why aren't you smiling? Smile more," etc. I became somewhat of a caricature known for positivity. And I believe that's what a lot of people are doing to themselves online every day, be it for smiles, looks, or something else. We follow the likes instead of our own paths and passions. Content creators who start with a genuine passion, only to find themselves trapped in a persona they've created. YouTubers who begin with authentic content, then slowly morph into caricatures of themselves. Influencers who become prisoners of the very image they've constructed, their true self becoming an archaeological artifact buried beneath layers of performance. Gwinder Bogle wrote an amazing article called The Perils of Audience Capture. Here he goes into the story of Nicholas Perry, or as he became known, Nikocado Avocado, a young YouTuber enjoying the violin and veganism to force-feeding himself, becoming chronically obese, all because it's what the people wanted. I strongly recommend you read Gwinder's article though. It's very good food for thought, no pun intended. The digital age has weaponized this audience capture. Algorithms reward extreme versions of ourselves. The more polarized, the more engaging. Your initial self becomes a brand, then a constraint, then a cage. You're no longer creating content, the content's essentially creating you. Each like, each view becomes a tiny string slowly weaving a straitjacket of expectation. Philosophers would see this as an extreme version of what Jean-Paul Sartre described as the gaze, where we become objects in other people's consciousness, losing our subjective experience. But now that gaze is multiplied, algorithmic, instantaneous, we're not just performing for the people in the room, we're performing for an abstract, global audience that exists in perpetual judgment. The most insidious part? Many don't even realise it's happening. The transformation is so gradual, so subtle, that by the time you recognise you've lost yourself, you're not even sure you remember who you were to begin with. So how do we break free? The first step is awareness, recognising those moments when we're performing rather than being. It's about creating small internal pause between stimulus and response, not to judge others, but to observe. I'm the queen of judging myself, so this whole take it easy on myself part has only come along recently. I also found journaling has become a very powerful and reflective tool, and it's that reflection that helps me realise when I'm being me and when I'm overdoing the whole people pleasing. I suppose I always want to be kind, but just not at a price I regret. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like, comment and subscribe. I know, ironic. See you in the next video.